Christmas used to feel loud in my parents' house. Too many lights, too much food. Music playing slightly too loudly as if silence might reveal something uncomfortable underneath. That year, I remember the cold more than anything else. The kind that makes the air feel metallic, too Udrixie. The windows had thin crystals along the corners, and every time the door opened, the hallway filled with that sharp winter breath. My daughter sat beside me at the long dining table. 10 years old. Small enough that her feet still didn't touch the floor properly. She had brushed her hair 3 times before we left our rental apartment. She wanted to look Christmas ready, she said. My parents had always been formal with her. Not cruel exactly, just careful, distant. As if affection had to be measured. At first the evening looked normal. Plates moved around the table. Someone refilled glasses. My mother spoke about decorations as if they were museum pieces. My father discussed the weather forecast with unnecessary seriousness. But small things began to appear. There were 6 chairs at the table. We were 7 people. My mother noticed it only after everyone had begun sitting. She paused, frowned slightly, then said, almost casually, "She can sit later when we bring dessert." My daughter didn't complain. She just stood near the counter, holding her hands together the way children do when they're trying not to interrupt adults. I remember telling myself it wasn't intentional. Families do awkward things during holidays. Later, when gifts were opened, the same pattern returned. Packages passed around the room, wrapping paper slowly covering the floor. My daughter received one small envelope. Inside was a bookstore gift card. She said thank you, very politely. But when the room quieted again, she leaned toward me and whispered something. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" The question felt too large for the moment. I told her no, of course not, and then I did something I regret now. I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet because I had spent my whole life managing my parents' moods. Because conflict always felt like stepping onto thin ice. Sometime after dinner there was a conversation in the hallway. I didn't hear the beginning of it. Only the ending, my mother's voice, controlled but sharp. "If you're going to behave like that, you should go home." I stepped out of the kitchen a moment too late. My daughter was already putting on her coat. She didn't look angry, just embarrassed. My father stood near the door with his arms folded, the way he used to stand when I was a child and had broken some rule I didn't understand. I said her name. She shook her head gently. "It's okay," she said. The front door opened. Cold air spilled inside. Then she stepped out. At the time, I believed she would wait on the porch until I followed. Or that someone would stop her. Or that the situation would correct itself the way family conflicts sometimes do when everyone realizes they've gone too far. But no one moved, and somehow the moment slid forward. Later that night, I drove back to our rental apartment. The living room light was on. She had walked the entire way alone. 3 streets. Through the cold. Her boots were still by the door when I entered, damp with melted frost. She was already asleep on the couch, wrapped in the blanket we kept there for movie nights. The next morning the phone rang at 10:52. The time stayed burned in my memory for reasons I still don't fully understand. Her voice was quiet. I sat up in bed. "What's wrong?" There was a long pause. Then she said something that made the room feel suddenly hollow. "Grandma said there wasn't a seat for me." Not angry, not crying. Just confused. As if she had spent the whole night trying to solve a puzzle that didn't make sense. I couldn't answer. I just held the phone against my ear while she breathed softly on the other end. 2 days passed. The Christmas lights stayed up around the city. But the holiday had already ended for me. My daughter stayed close that weekend. She asked fewer questions than usual. Children sometimes go quiet when they sense the adults around them are thinking about something serious. On the 3rd afternoon my great-grandmother called. She was 92 and rarely involved herself in family matters. Her voice was steady. "I heard something happened on Christmas." I didn't give many details. I didn't need to. News traveled quickly through our family. She asked only one practical question. Did they send her outside alone? Yes. There was a small silence, then she said, "All right." 2 days later she invited my parents to her house. I came as well, though no one explained why. The living room smelled faintly of old wood and tea. The same way it had since my childhood. My great-grandmother sat in her chair near the window. A thin folder rested on the table beside her. My parents stood across the room, confused more than worried. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't lecture anyone, she simply slid the folder across the table. My father opened it. Inside was a document, legal stationery. The house my parents lived in, large, comfortable, the center of most family gatherings, had never actually belonged to them. It belonged to her. She watched them read the paper slowly. Then she spoke. "Get out." Her tone was calm. "Almost tire if you have questions," she added. "Talk to my lawyer." For the first time in my life, I saw my parents without certainty. Their faces didn't collapse into anger. They just drained of color. Like people realizing gravity had shifted beneath their feet. No one celebrated, no one argued, we left quietly. That evening my daughter asked if we were still going to visit Grandma and Grandpa next Christmas. I looked at her for a long time before answering. "I don't know yet." She nodded, accepting that answer in the way children, sometimes adults, are still learning themselves. Protecting her, I realized, wasn't going to be one moment. It was going to be a series of decisions. Some of them harder than walking away into the cold.